Welcome to Africa Untold, the channel where we uncover the hidden truths of African history that textbooks tried to erase. Tonight, we journey into the heart of Central Africa, to a kingdom once so powerful, so organized, and so influential that European monarchs treated its rulers as equals. This was the Kingdom of Kongo, a realm of kings, diplomats, and warriors, but also a kingdom betrayed, manipulated, and ultimately consumed by the shadow of the transatlantic slave trade. This is not just a story of power. It is a story of hope, betrayal, and resistance. So stay with me, because what you're about to hear will completely change how you see African history. The story begins in the late 14th century. Along the fertile valleys of the Congo River, diverse communities came together, farming, fishing, hunting, and trading. They spoke a common Bantu language, shared cultural traditions, and slowly, alliances formed between clans. These alliances grew into provinces, and eventually, into one united kingdom, the Kingdom of Kongo. Its capital was Mbanza Kongo, a city that would later astonish European visitors. It had marketplaces, administrative quarters, and a royal palace complex that stood as a symbol of centralized power. Unlike the stereotype of a tribal Africa, Kongo was a structured state, with kings, nobles, councils, governors, and taxes. At its height, it controlled lands stretching from modern-day Angola to Gabon. The people farmed millet and yams, raised cattle, and traded ivory, copper, salt, and cloth. But most importantly, the Kongo Kingdom was deeply spiritual. Its leaders ruled not only with political authority, but with sacred legitimacy, seen as mediators between the living and the ancestors. At the heart of the Kongo Kingdom stood the Mbanza Kongo, the king. He was not just a ruler, but the center of an empire, supported by provincial governors, commanders, and councils who ensured that soldiers, tribute, and resources flowed steadily to his throne in the capital Mbanza Kongo. Life thrived with rhythm and color. The markets overflowed with trade, the streets echoed with music, and festivals lit the city with ritual and dance. Visitors marveled at the royal court. Drummers thundered out the king's decrees. Dancers moved with grace during sacred ceremonies. Nobles appeared in rich woven cloth, carrying themselves with dignity. This was not a forgotten corner of the world. This was a kingdom alive with power, order, and pride. But then, the rhythm began to shift. In the late 15th century, something appeared on the horizon that would alter Congo forever. White sails. They carried strangers from across the sea, men who came in search of wealth, influence, and dominion. The Portuguese had arrived. In 1483, Portuguese explorers under Diogo Quay arrived in the Kingdom of Kongo. Their meeting with the Mbanza Kongo, the King of Kongo, was not hostile, but diplomatic. The Portuguese admired the kingdom's political order and sophistication. Kongo rulers, in turn, saw this as an opportunity: access to new technologies, goods, and international alliances. The first exchanges were simple. The Portuguese brought iron weapons, cloth, and crops. In return, they received ivory and copper. But soon, the balance shifted. What the Portuguese began to demand most were human beings. And beyond trade, they brought another force into Congo: Christianity. It would not be a mere religion, but a disruptive power that would change the kingdom's identity and its destiny. The year was 1491. The Kingdom of Kongo stood at a crossroads. Its ruler, Nzinga Nku, watched these strange new visitors, men who came across the sea with crosses in their hands and power in their ships. Curious, and perhaps hopeful, the Mbanza Kongo agreed to a bold step. He accepted baptism. The King of Kongo became Joao I, a Christian monarch. But it was his son, Mvemba, and Nzinga, remembered in history as Afonso I, who embraced the faith most fiercely. Afonso was no ordinary king. He became a scholar of the Bible, a builder of churches, and a promoter of literacy. He welcomed European advisors, encouraged new systems of governance, and even wrote letters to the Pope in Rome and the King of Portugal, not as a servant, but as an equal. For a brief moment, it seemed as though a miracle had happened. Africa and Europe joined in faith, in trade, in diplomacy, a partnership that stretched across continents. But beneath this fragile alliance lay a dangerous imbalance. The Portuguese had not crossed the ocean for friendship alone. They had not brought their crosses and muskets for free. What they wanted was flesh. And as the Kingdom of Kongo opened its doors to Europe, the shadow of betrayal began to grow, longer and darker. What had begun as a partnership of equals would soon turn into a struggle for survival. By the early 1500s, the Portuguese demand for slaves had grown uncontrollable at first. The Mbanza Kongo believed slavery would remain limited, only criminals, prisoners of war, or those already enslaved. But the Europeans had no such limits. They demanded more, and more, and more. The trade turned into something monstrous. King Mbanza I, the Christian ruler of Congo, became horrified at what he saw. He wrote desperate letters to the King of Portugal, pleading, "Our country is being depopulated. Each day, traders kidnap our sons, daughters, nobles, and free people. This corruption destroys our land. How can this be friendship?" But his cries fell on deaf ears. For the Portuguese crown, Congo was not a partner anymore. It was a supplier of human flesh. Soon, Portuguese ships filled with chained men, women, and children began sailing across the Atlantic. The kingdom that once dreamed of equality with Europe was being hollowed out. Slavery did not only come from outside, it poisoned Congo from within. Rival nobles and governors saw profit in selling captives. Some betrayed their own neighbors, secretly dealing with Portuguese merchants. Others staged wars just to capture prisoners. Even Christianity, once a hopeful bridge between Congo and Europe, became a weapon of control. Portuguese missionaries justified slavery, saying it was God's plan. Priests blessed ships filled with chained captives. Faith, once meant to unite, was twisted into a tool of domination. The kingdom began to fracture. Trust collapsed. Unity was gone. And the Mbanza Kongo found himself surrounded by enemies, not just abroad, but at home. Still, Congo did not fall quietly in the mid-1600s. The kingdom fought desperately to resist Portuguese domination. The climax came in 1665, at the Battle of Mabula here. The Mbanza Kongo himself led his army into battle. Thousands of Congo warriors marched with spears, shields, and unmatched courage. Their drums thundered, their chants echoed across the valleys. They knew they faced muskets and cannons. They knew the enemy was stronger, but they refused to surrender their kingdom without a fight. The battle was fierce, bloody, and desperate. Congo warriors charged again and again, refusing to give in. But in the end, Portuguese firepower cut them down. The king was slain, his head was severed and sent to Lisbon, a trophy of conquest. With his death, the unity of Congo shattered. Civil war erupted, rival claimants fought for the throne, and the kingdom descended into chaos. But let it be remembered, Congo did not collapse from weakness. It collapsed because Europe tore it apart. Even as Congo crumbled, its spirit refused to die. The enslaved men and women carried more than chains across the Atlantic. They carried their language, their rituals, their songs, their resilience. In Brazil, Cuba, and Haiti, Congo traditions survived. In Haitian Vodou, the spirits of the Congo still guide rituals. In Brazilian Candomblé, Congo chants still echo in sacred ceremonies in the Americas. People who had been stripped of everything still held on to their Congo identity. Their music, their dances, their rhythms shaped entire cultures. Congo's body may have been scattered, but its soul was never broken. The story of the Kingdom of Kongo is more than history. It is a warning and a mirror. It shows how greed can corrupt diplomacy, how betrayal can destroy even the strongest nation, how foreign manipulation can turn allies into enemies. But it also shows something deeper: resilience, because even after war, slavery, and betrayal, the spirit of Congo still lives in Africa, in the Americas, in the hearts of millions of descendants who still carry their ancestors' strength. This is why we tell these stories. Because Congo was not just a victim of history, it was a kingdom of kings, warriors, diplomats, and people whose voices still echo across centuries. If this story opened your eyes, don't let it stop here. Smash that like button to help spread Africa's untold history. Drop your thoughts in the comments. Your engagement brings these voices back to life. And subscribe to Africa Untold, the place where the silence of history is broken, and Africa's truth shines again. Because remembering is resistance, and Africa's story is far from over.